Hi again everyone, welcome to video 4. My name's Dave Elleray and I'm one half of Freedom Thinking, the other half being my wife Jen. Jen's going to be making some videos soon. She's got some stuff she wants to talk about. I hope this wind noise isn't too much. It's quite a breezy day today and I'm back in the woods. I'm walking to the park with Jen and Lucia and Archie, but they're quite a bit ahead. Yeah, today I wanted to talk a bit about why the principles aren't really a therapy, why they're not a psychological approach. I often hear people confusing them. I've got a friend who has been through psychosis recently, and people around me were asking, have you lost any faith in the principles? And I'd say to them, absolutely not. Why would I lose faith in the principles because somebody's having an experience? And I feel like that question is born because people are looking at this as a psychological approach. And that to me is a very limiting way. And it also clumps it into a group, it puts it in a box which it doesn't belong in, and that is one of psychological approaches, like a technique or a conversation around CBT or NLP or something like that. The three principles don't come into that box, and I just want to talk a little bit about why, and in the hope that people will start to see that really what's been pointed to is something before. Okay, so the three principles as articulated by Sid Banks, first and foremost, just want to clarify again, they're a metaphor. They're in the words and in of themselves there aren't really three, there's just one force. And that force is life, the livingness of life. Now that livingness of life is one thing. I'm surrounded by livingness of life. Birds, trees, other plants, insects, family. And the three principles is pointing to the livingness of life. Now, when Sid was talking about mind, he was talking about the universal intelligence of all things, the space from which all things emerge. Well, that is also pure consciousness. It's pure thought. It's all really one thing. And when he spoke about mind, consciousness and thought, really what he was describing were attributes of a singular force. So this force is a universal force. It's universal. It is universe-wide. It is a state of awareness, consciousness. And it has infinite potential within it to create thought. So really the three attributes to the same force, it's just a conversation, and by breaking it down into three, Sid was hopeful that he could get this conversation to be understood a bit better, and hopefully it may go into psychology, which is where he really wanted it to end up, which it did, which is awesome. And it's gone into coaching again, which is awesome, it's wonderful. But I really want to draw a distinct line between this being an approach. I see sometimes people saying, I practice NLP, I do hypnosis, I do the three principles. You can't do the three principles. The three principles are doing you. So I sound pedantic at this point, and I hope people don't. I'm pretty hard with my personal message about this. Some people say I'm so inflexible when it comes to this message, and I am. I really am, to be honest, and it's not because I'm inflexible as a person, because I personally don't think I am. However, the fundamental nature of life is a singular thing, and it can't be tied and likened to any other thing, such as a psychological approach. So if you were to really step back and look and start to look at things like NLP, CBT, all those kind of things, hypnosis, regressive therapy, first and foremost they are ideas. And I'm not saying that these techniques don't have any merit. Please don't think that's what I'm saying. I'm not one of those people who says everybody has to kind of do the principles instead of NLP, CBT, or hypnosis. I'm not one of those people. I'm pro anybody finding peace, and whatever works for them, awesome. That's my approach to life. That's my ethos on life. I'm not dogmatic about the principles, but I am straight in my conversation around them because they are different. They are a different conversation to NLP, CBT and regressive therapy and stuff like that. And the reason why that is because they are all ideas of mankind's mind. They are approaches which have been dreamt up. People have had insight at some point. So for example, one of Freud's insights was, people are a consequence of their past. And so that's why the whole regressive therapy thing was born, and it was all because of Freud. I believe that pretty much every single therapeutic technique now has its origin in Freud, and that idea of his that all our suffering and whatever stems from when we were younger. And then Sid came along and said, but that's not true, because the past doesn't exist. There's only the now. And if you're experiencing a suffering now, then it must be coming from the now and not from the past. And what Sid was pointing to was a fundamental truth. He had realized the law of life, and he was sharing the law of life. Now, the law of life has many different disguises that it hides itself behind, such as time, such as identities, such as reality itself. And the principles that Sid spoke to, or the principle that Sid spoke to, is fundamental. It doesn't change. It's not an idea. The power of thought is not an idea of mankind's mind. Consciousness is not an idea of mankind's mind. The divine intelligence of all things is not an idea of mankind's mind. We are an idea of it. This is a fundamental truth. We did not invent consciousness. We did not invent the idea of thought. We did not invent the idea of the universe. We are a creation of it. And so therefore everything else cannot be mixed, as Sid said. You can't mix the principles and therapeutic techniques. And he wasn't saying you shouldn't mix them. He was saying they just don't mix. They're two very different conversations. One of them is looking at what is created, looking at our thoughts, looking at our feelings. And the other one is pointing directly to, as best he could, to what is creating. One is a conversation about creation, too late, it's being created. And the other one is going before too late to the realization of what's creating, which is always in the now. So I'm going to try and keep this video short, but that's one of the things I just want to draw a distinction between when we are having a conversation around the principles. I often hear people saying things like, do you think the principles is better than CBT? I'll just say to them, no. It's just a different conversation. One of them is working with the illusion, the other one is hopefully pointing before the illusion. Personally, in my experience, when I was ready, I was allowed to see behind this experience of life and realize it for myself. But I am aware that there are people who aren't ready for that yet, and things like CBT and NLP, they're great, you know, they're really, really wonderful. But, however, they are pointing directly at the illusion of life and trying to fix the illusion of life with the illusion of life. As opposed to where the principles is trying to point people is to, before the illusion of life, you exist. Before the illusion of life, there is a force that creates. Stop being mesmerized by the creation and start to become aware of what's creating. And in doing so, there is such massive therapeutic value. I always say this, the three principles is, it's not a therapy, but the therapeutic value is immeasurable. When we start to wake up and realize we are not our stories, we are not our thoughts, we are not our feelings. We are a unified field of infinite potential spiritual force, an inexplicable event, a magical event that we call our life. When we start to wake up to that point, everything else just gets dissolved. We don't work on ourselves. We don't need to work on ourselves. There truly is nothing to do. There truly is nothing to do. You cannot do, another thing I often hear is, that's not very principles. Oh, that's not the very principles. This isn't very principles. Everything's the principles. Everything is an idea of thought. Everything comes from the universe. You couldn't have the experience without consciousness. So therefore, everything is the principles. It's not a dogmatic idea. It's not a religion. It's not a faith. It's a fundamental truth, of which there is nothing to do. We already are the principles. And don't confuse there's nothing to do with do nothing. That's another thing I often hear. Oh, that's a doing. Oh no, that's a doing, that's a doing. No, don't confuse there's nothing to do with do nothing. There's nothing to do because you are mind, consciousness, thought in action, whatever those words are pointing to, pure love. We are that in action. There is nothing to do. They are pre-applied. You do not apply the principles to any situation. What do the principles say about this? What do the principles say about that? They say nothing about anything. They're a guide to the inner self, to the true nature of life. But I also hear people saying there's nothing to do and therefore I shouldn't do anything. No. There's nothing to do because they're pre-applied. Now go and live. Go and live. Go and discover your magic. Go and fulfill your heart. You've been given the gift to be born into this worldly environment, to this worldly plane, with infinite potential within you. What do you want to go and do with your life? Go play. Go play. Fulfill your heart's dreams and go and play. We're only here for a short period of time on this dimension. What are we going to do with it? There's plenty to do. There's tons to do. Go and play. And I feel that's the message of the principles. Go play. Go and enjoy your life. We don't need to take it so seriously. This is a wonderful place to be. In spite of all that's going on the planet, this is a wonderful place to be. Right, I send you all love. If Jenny and I can be of service, please shout. Yeah, and I look forward to seeing you all in video 5. Speak soon.